Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about how to make lasting change. Like, how can tiny tweaks actually lead to massive results? We're going to be using Atomic Habits by James Clear as our guide. And, I got to admit, when I first heard about this book, I was a little skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really? Can small changes actually make that much of a difference?
Yeah.
But then I read it, and it really is kind of a game changer.
Yeah, it's fascinating how we often get so fixated on these, overnight transformations,
Yeah.
like these dramatic, sweeping changes that promise instant results.
Right.
But the reality is, lasting change doesn't usually happen that way. It's those
Yeah.
small, consistent actions, those 1% improvements that really add up over time.
Yeah, that's what really hooked me on this book, this concept of the 1% rule. This idea that if you can just get 1% better each day, you end up like 37 times better after a year. At first I was like, no way, that's not possible. But then when you think about it, in terms of like learning a language or something, you're not going to become fluent overnight.
Yeah.
But if you just consistently like learn a few new words, practice some grammar every day,
Yeah.
those small efforts really snowball into something much bigger.
It's not just about personal growth either. I mean, look at a company like Amazon. Their success is largely driven by this constant pursuit of tiny improvements in every aspect of their business. So whether it's
Sure.
streamlining their logistics or like constantly making tiny changes to their website to improve that user experience, all those small gains, when they're compounded over time, they've made Amazon into the giant that it is today.
Okay, so we're sold on the power of tiny changes. But how do we actually make those changes stick? Like, we've all started a new diet or a new workout routine with the best intentions only to like fizzle out after a week or two.
Sure, and that's where Clear's 4 laws of behavior change come in. He provides this really clear framework for habit formation. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make
Yeah.
it easy, and make it satisfying. It's like a recipe for building habits that last.
And this is where the book gets really practical because he gives so many examples of how to actually apply each of these laws in your own life.
Yeah.
So, for example, for the make it obvious principle, he talks about setting up visual cues. Like, if you want to read more, don't just hide your books away on a shelf. Leave one right on your pillow. Like, you literally cannot miss it. And I've actually tried this, and it totally works.
It's all about designing an environment that actually supports the actions that you want to take. By making those cues really strong and reducing that friction as much as possible, you're kind of nudging yourself in the right direction.
Right.
You're choosing the path of least resistance, but in a way that benefits you.
It's like if you want to work out in the morning,
Mm.
lay out your workout clothes the night before
Yeah.
so you don't have to think about it when you're half asleep and want to hit snooze.
Exactly. And the make it attractive principle is all about pairing the habit you want to build with something you already enjoy. So if you hate running on the treadmill, try listening to your favorite podcast or audiobook while you run. Suddenly, exercise becomes something you look forward to.
You know what? I started doing that a few months ago, and it completely changed how I feel about working out. I used to see it as such a chore, but now it's like my me time, where I get to catch up on my podcasts and get in shape at the same time. It's win-win.
Exactly. And then there's make it easy. This is all about reducing those barriers to action, even in like the tiniest ways. So if you want to drink more water, just keep a water bottle on your desk. Or if you want to learn a new language, download a language learning app on your phone so you can practice on the go. It's about making good choices the easiest choices.
So we've got obvious, attractive, easy. What about make it satisfying? That's the reward part, right?
Absolutely, make it satisfying is about reinforcing that habit by creating this positive feedback loop. So this could be as simple as giving yourself a small reward. After you complete a task, it doesn't have to be anything major, like maybe you enjoy a cup of tea after finishing a chapter in a book, or you take a relaxing bath after a long day of work. It's about acknowledging your effort and giving yourself that little pat on the back.
So are you saying that like every time I do a set of push-ups,
Huh.
I should reward myself with a cookie? Because that doesn't sound like it's going to help with the whole getting in shape thing.
Well, maybe not a cookie every time. But the key here is to find rewards that are aligned with your goals. So it's about associating the habit with a positive feeling, not about undermining your progress. You're essentially training your brain to crave that feeling of accomplishment and associating it with that desired action.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we've got these 4 laws. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying, all working together to kind of help us build these really solid habits. But I'm curious, is it really just about like tweaking our environment and giving ourselves little rewards? Where does motivation fit into this? What about willpower?
That's a great question, and it brings us to one of the most powerful concepts in the book. Identity-based habits. It's not just about what we do, it's about who we believe we are.
Hold on. This whole identity thing is kind of blowing my mind because I feel like I've always focused on what I want to change, lose weight, eat healthier, but I've never really thought about who I need to become to actually make those changes stick.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. So instead of focusing on outcomes like losing 10 pounds, you focus on embodying the identity of someone who naturally performs those healthy habits.
So instead of saying, I want to lose weight,
Mm.
I would say I am the type of person
Huh.
who prioritizes their health and makes healthy choices.
Yeah, that's it. It's about aligning your actions with your self-image. When your habits reflect your identity, it's no longer about willpower or forcing yourself to do things you don't enjoy. It becomes an expression of who you are.
Okay, I'm getting this. So let's say I want to become a writer. So instead of just focusing on getting a book published, I should be focusing on cultivating the identity of a writer. So that means showing up every day, putting words on the page, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Exactly. It's about becoming the type of person who embodies those habits naturally. It's not about forcing it. It's about aligning your actions with your deepest values and aspirations. So what identity do you want to embody? And what habits would support that? That's a powerful question.
That is a really powerful question. It makes you think about why you actually want to make those changes. It's not just about checking things off a to-do list. It's about becoming a better version of yourself.
And that's what's so powerful about this concept. It's not just about building habits. It's about building a life that reflects who you truly want to be. It really is. And as you start aligning your actions with that identity that you want to embody, you might run into this other concept that Clear talks about, the plateau of latent potential. Have you ever experienced this where you feel like you're putting in the work, you're putting in the effort, but you're not really seeing those results yet?
Oh, for sure. We've all been there where you're working hard, you're showing up every day, but it feels like you're not making any progress.
It can be so discouraging, right?
Totally. It's like,
Yeah.
am I even doing this right? Is this all worth it?
Exactly. And Clear uses this really powerful analogy of pushing this giant rock up a hill. So you're straining, you're sweating. That rock is barely budging.
Yeah.
But then suddenly you push it over the top and it breaks through to the other side.
That breakthrough moment.
Yes, and it's exactly why it's so important for us to understand this idea of the plateau of latent potential, because when we hit that plateau and we feel like we're not making progress, it doesn't necessarily mean we're doing something wrong. It just means that we might be on the verge of a breakthrough.
So how do we know if we're just spinning our wheels or if we're actually about to have that breakthrough moment?
Well, remember that bamboo analogy that Clear talks about? Bamboo spends years growing underground, totally invisible, and then, seemingly overnight, it shoots up and it can grow several feet in just a single day. Our habits are often like that too. We may not see those results right away, but beneath the surface, something really powerful is happening.
So it's all about trusting the process, even when we're not seeing those results yet.
Trusting the process, and it's not just about these internal shifts. Clear also talks about how our environment plays a huge role in shaping our habits. It's this concept of environment design.
Oh, this is a good one. I love this one because it's like, instead of just relying on willpower, we can actually kind of engineer our surroundings to make it easier to make those good choices.
Yeah, it's about understanding that we're not just creatures of habit, we're also creatures of our environment. Our surroundings are constantly nudging us in one direction or another, often without us even realizing it. So if we want to change our behavior, one of the most effective things we can do is actually change our environment.
So if you're trying to eat healthy, but your pantry is stocked with chips and cookies, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly. Or imagine trying to focus on getting work done when your phone's buzzing with notifications every few minutes. It's about minimizing those distractions, minimizing those temptations, and creating an environment that supports your goals.
Clear gives the example of wanting to read more. Instead of relying on willpower to not watch Netflix, he suggests making reading as easy as possible. So keep a book on your bedside table or download an audiobook to your phone so you can listen on your commute.
Exactly. Or on the flip side, if you're trying to cut back on social media, log out of those accounts, delete the apps from your phone, make it a little harder to engage in those behaviors.
It's not about willpower, it's about being strategic with your environment.
You're stacking the deck in your favor. And speaking of stacking, have you ever heard of the 2-minute rule?
Oh, tell me about this. This sounds right up my alley.
So this is especially helpful for anyone who struggles with procrastination. It's this idea that you break down a daunting task into these tiny, manageable actions that you can start in under 2 minutes. The idea being that starting is often the hardest part.
That initial inertia, getting the ball rolling.
Exactly. So instead of saying, I'm going to clean the whole house, which feels overwhelming, you start by saying, I'm going to put away 5 things or I'm going to wash just one dish. It sounds so simple, but it's incredibly effective.
It's like you're tricking your brain into taking action. And then once you've started, you're much more likely to just keep going.
Well, begun is half done, and you can actually pair this 2-minute rule with another really powerful technique that Clear calls habit stacking.
Oh, I love habit stacking. It's like creating this chain reaction of good habits.
That's a great way to put it. So you're essentially linking a new habit to an existing habit that you already have. So let's say you already have a solid habit of brushing your teeth every morning. Well, you could stack a new habit like meditating for 2 minutes right on top of that.
So it's about leveraging the existing neural pathways that are already associated with that established habit.
Exactly. So instead of relying on willpower to start that new meditation habit, you're using the momentum of an existing habit to just propel you forward.
That's like a domino effect of positive habits.
That's a great way to think about it.
I actually use this to build my entire morning routine. I start with making my bed, then I do a quick stretch, then I meditate for a few minutes, and then I make coffee. It's become so automatic now, it just flows.
That's fantastic. And it really shows how these seemingly small changes can have a really big ripple effect on our lives.
And that's what I love about this book. It's so full of these really practical strategies that anyone can implement.
It's not just theory, it's about providing you with the tools that you can actually use to create lasting change. And that brings us back to that core message of atomic habits. Small changes, consistently applied compound over time to create remarkable results.
It's not about perfection, it's about progress.
It's about showing up every day and doing the best you can with what you have. And over time, those small efforts, they really do add up to something extraordinary.
Like there's that quote I love. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. It's so true, right?
Absolutely.
It's that consistency, those small steps that you take day after day that really add up in the long run.
It's not about like finding that one magic solution or that quick fix. It's about building a system of habits that support those goals and just kind of gradually move you closer to that person that you want to be.
And that's what's so inspiring to me about this whole concept. It takes the pressure off of having to be perfect or make these like drastic changes overnight. It's about embracing those small wins and trusting the process.
Yeah, it's about showing up each day and doing the best that you can with what you have. And then just watching those small efforts compound into something incredible.
When I first started reading Atomic Habits, I was a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's just so many strategies and techniques. But as I kept reading, I realized you don't have to try to implement everything all at once.
Exactly. It's about finding the strategies that really resonate with you, the ones that fit your personality, fit your lifestyle, and experimenting and just seeing what works.
Totally. It's all about personalization, taking this framework and adapting it to your own unique goals and needs.
Yeah, what works for one person might not work for another,
Right.
and that's totally okay. The key is to find what clicks for you.
Right. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate those small wins. And don't be afraid to adjust course along the way.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. What's one tiny habit that you could start today, right now, that would put you on the path to becoming the person you want to be tomorrow?
It could be something as simple as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, or reading for 10 minutes before you go to bed, or maybe just taking a 5-minute walk during your lunch break.
The key is to start small, stay consistent, and trust that those tiny actions will compound over time.
So we encourage everyone listening to pick up a copy of Atomic Habits and dive deeper into these concepts for yourself.
It's a book that can truly transform your life, one small step at a time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Atomic Habits. We hope you found it valuable and inspiring.
Yeah, remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
One small step at a time. Until next time, happy habit building.